Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is very interesting, very relevant. And the topic is COVID-19. Will China compensate? War is a state of armed conflict between different countries. There are different types of wars, including biological war. Biological war, also known as germ war, is the use of biological toxins or infectious agents such as bacteria, viruses, insects, and fungi with the intent to kill or incapacitate humans, animals, or plants as an act of war. Biological weapons are living organisms or replicating entities such as viruses, entomological insects, etc. The use of biological weapons is prohibited under customary international humanitarian law as well as a variety of international treaties. The use of biological agent in armed conflict is a war crime. War repression are compensation payments made after a war by the vanquished to the victors. They are intended to cover damage or injury inflicted during a war. In past, many countries paid war repression. To name few, Napoleonic War, following the Treaty of Paris, 1815, defeated France, was ordered to pay 700 million francs. Franco-Prussian War. After the Franco-Prussian War, according to conditions of Treaty of Frankfurt, dated May 10, 1871, France was obliged to pay a war indemnity of 5 billion gold francs in 5 years. Greco-Turkish War of 1897. Defeated Greece was forced to pay a large war indemnity to Turkey, 4 million pounds. World War I, repression. Russians agreed to pay reparations to the Central Powers when Russia exited the war in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Bulgaria paid reparations of 2.25 billion gold francs, that is equivalent to 90 million pounds to the NT, according to the Treaty of Neuilly. Germany agreed to pay reparation of 132 billion gold marks to the Triple NT in the Treaty of Versailles. World War II. German repression. During World War II, Nazi Germany extracted payments from occupied countries and compelled loans. In addition, countries were obliged to provide resources and forced labor. After World War II, according to the Potsdam Conference held between July 17th and August 2nd, 1945, Germany was to pay allies US $23 billion. Iraq War repression. After the Gulf War, Iraq accepted United Nations Security Council Resolution number 687, which declared Iraq's financial liability for damage caused in its invasion of Kuwait. The United Nations Compensation Commission, UNCC, was established and US $350 billion in claims were filed by governments, corporations, and individuals. UNCC accepted and awarded compensations claims for $52.4 billion to approximately 1.5 million successful claimants. In the wake of novel coronavirus outbreak, recurring questions have been raised about the legal responsibility of China for its role in the spread of the virus. As the virus continues to wreak havoc across the globe, many have questioned the Chinese government's action in the initial weeks following the outbreak of the novel virus in Wuhan. There have been repeated calls from many across the world for China to pay compensation to the affected countries. In the US alone, 2 class action suits have been filed against China for suppressing information about the viruses in its early days and seeking billions in compensation for the damages caused by the outbreak of the virus. Under international law, every internationally wrongful act or omission of a state entails the international responsibility of that state. However, in order for an act or omission to be considered internationally wrongful, 2 constituent elements need to be met. First, the act or omission in question must be attributable to the state under the relevant rules of attribution in international law. Second, the act or omission must constitute a breach of an international obligation in force for that state at that time. Even where both these elements have been satisfied, a state may nevertheless avoid international responsibility if it can establish one of 6 specific circumstances: consent, self-defense, countermeasures, force majeure, distress, or necessity that preclude the wrongfulness of the action and or omissions on the part of the state. The allegations pertain to the actions or omissions of the local Chinese government officials in suppressing critical information about the novel coronavirus in the early weeks following the outbreak. Even though such officials may belong to the local provincial government from the vantage point of international law, a state is unitary and no differentiation can be sought to be made between provincial and union governments. Accordingly, the alleged actions of or omissions, albeit of local state officials, remain attributable to China under international law. In terms of treaty law, the International Health Regulations 2005 IHR, adopted by the World Health Assembly, the plenary body of the World Health Organization WHO, is the sole binding legal instrument dedicated inter alia to the prevention, protection, and control of international spread of diseases. Article 6, read with Article 7 of the IHR, obliges states to assess events occurring within their territory and notify the WHO within 24 hours of any event, including any unexpected or unusual public health event within its territory, regardless of its origin, which may constitute a public health emergency of international concern. Since China is a member of the WHO, it is bound by this reporting obligation and by the actions or omissions of its officials in allegedly suppressing information from the WHO about a highly contagious virus despite having necessary information may arguably be seen as breaching its international obligations. As is well known, it is a fundamental principle of international education that jurisdiction of an international court or tribunal is derived from consent of the participating states. Even in the context of IHR, consent is separately required for a specific dispute thereunder to be brought to arbitration. In such a scenario, and given China's earlier track record of non-participation before international tribunals, illustrated in the South China Sea arbitration, it appears unlikely that China would voluntarily consent to participate in proceedings before any international court or tribunal on this issue. Nevertheless, despite the bleak prospect of enforcing international law through judicial means, the factum of breach of international law by China is of itself significant. The affected countries can always seek to hold China accountable under international law through non-judicial means, including by raising the issue diplomatically, either bilaterally or at an appropriate international forum. The result today is that we have 2.04 million people who have died and trillions of dollars in global damage as a direct result of the COVID-19. And to discuss today's very, very important and relevant topic, COVID-19, will China compensate? We have a very elite, knowledgeable experts panel with us. And I would like to invite my first guest. He is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He was former head of disaster management, Government of India, and Central Drought Relief Commissioner, Government of India. He is also the principal advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. He was the Vice Chancellor of National Museum, University of Delhi. He has authored 40 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi, including novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. 4 books on Vastu and architecture and 1 book on housing received prestigious the Sharjah International Book Fair Award. Dr. Bose is a housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Nirmiti Kendra Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasures of Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him Lord of Ideas. Former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh called him inspired civil servant. And our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi called him man of ideas. Welcome, Dr. Bose, on our show. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, you being such a dignitary or I will say a person with full knowledge internationally, because you have addressed the United Nations 5 times and you have traveled across the world. And you know what are the situation when there is a dispute or a war among the countries. But here the scenario is a bit different, because one country which has used either intentionally or unintentionally the virus or the biological war with the countries, everyone suffered, right from a poorest to poor to the richest to rich. We would like to know from you, the COVID-19, will China compensate? Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. This topic is of great contemporary relevance now. In fact, literally and figuratively, China is going viral. The world is waiting for an answer to this. In the safety science, it is said that accidents are not accidental. I repeat, accidents are not accidental. There is a human element behind it. Now the whole world is convinced that the culprit in the whole COVID game is none other than China. In international law and international practice, rather, there is a concept which has been widely accepted by all communities in the world. This came in the context of environmental pollution. The dictum is, he who pollutes must pay. And this has more or less been accepted by the advanced countries. See, in the Kyoto Protocol, and also in the various deliberations which took place before that, during that, America was responsible for more than 25% of the CO2 emission in the world. There, all the member states joined together and established the principle, he who pollutes must pay. This is applicable in this case as well. Here it is much more than pollution. COVID has been the harbinger of death in the world, and China has become the peddlers of death in the modern world. If they are responsible for letting out this biological weapon deliberately or inadvertently on the world, they have a responsibility to compensate for that. And what is the extent of damage that has been done to the world, done to humanity, done to the future generations? 2 million died, as you said, 2.04 million. You know, the United Nations says that its objective is to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. I repeat, to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind. Now let us think for a while. Has COVID brought untold sorrow to mankind? What kind of a war is this? You said the biological warfare. Yes, that is precisely what China has launched on humanity. And what has been the result? To more than 2 million people dead. You know, in India itself, I think totally 86 million people affected. 26% world's business closed down. 400 million, this is ILO statistics. 400 millions lost their job. It is much more than that. Having been the one-man expert commission for government, when we say 400 million, that is assuming 48 hours a week. But normally it's not 48 hours now, it's less than that. So it's much more than 400 million who lost their job. And the economic loss, 16 trillion. You know, 1 lakh million, billion is trillion. And 16 trillion means, in Indian rupees, 1,120 lakh crores. 1,120 lakh crores of rupees, which means 6 times the GDP of India. That is an estimated loss to the world, not for India. Now, the future generation, 1.6 billion students are out of school. Not a joke. 1,500 crores are there of business in the United States alone. This is enormity of the crime which the Wuhan virus has done. And now, how many have either become bankrupt or gone for insolvency suit? Even the giants in the field, Goel, that is a parent company of Wendy's and Pizza Hut, they are flat broke. Then Virgin Atlantic, yes, the one-time hype in success in aviation, they are also now becoming pauper. The same is the case with Thai Airways, Air Mauritius, and many have filed the suits for bankruptcy, all because of an unknown virus which came from China. And now travel and tourism industry in the world, 42% decrease is there, and flights are down by 40%. I do not want to parade statistics. All these are leading to the enormity of the crime which has been done by China. Yes, it's a war crime. It's a war crime which deserves to be punished according to the international law and conventions. Now coming to India, our own motherland, see lockdown laws. The lockdown laws for India is $26 billion for this country. And annual output is down by 12%. 1.5 lakh died. 40.6 crores affected workforce in the country. So I have been given the task of rehabilitating the workforce. 46.5 crores in India alone. The workforce have been affected. We had a distressing spectacle with distraught workers, migrant workers, going with a headload and working an exodus of the migrants. All this happened because of the deliberate action or the inadvertent action of our friendly neighbor, China. And now, who will give the compensation? The compensation is necessarily to be paid by the country which caused the havoc. You have already related how war compensation has been done in the world. Now let me see, even in peaceful times, look at the United States, they keep on nuclear experiments within their own country, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico. In all these places, a lot of people have been affected. Each one has been paid $100,000 by the American government. And Chernobyl incident, in Chernobyl, Russia had to pay 1.12 billion for those who were affected. And Exxon oil, yes, the Exxon oil spill, Exxon company had to pay 8.8 billion. And we had a Bhopal tragedy. Union Carbide had to pay. Therefore, he who causes loss must compensate. If that logic is taken, that practice is extended, China has to fill the bill. China has to pay for it, but China will not. That is where the crux of it. China is already on record that they will not pay compensation. Already, few suits have been filed in the American court claiming compensation from China. And some of the states in the United States are planning to move legislation against China. And the spokesperson of the Chinese parliament, he emphatically said, we do not accept any responsibility for this. If there is any punitive action against us, there will also be countermeasures. Therefore, it's a belligerent China, which is up in arms against the whole world. There is something called Sino-imperialism. The emperor of China, I underline emperor of China. Xi Jinping is not just popular leader now. He has made himself the perennial leader of China. That is why he said the emperor of China. He is again imitating the old Chinese emperors. Once, when China was very weak and Britain was ruling the whole world with the empire where the sun doesn't set, the ambassador of the Queen approached the weak emperor, namesake emperor of China, and asked him in diplomatic politeness, what can Her Majesty do for your Imperial Majesty? You know the answer of the weak king? He said, the Chinese emperor said, tremble and obey. Tremble and obey. That seems to be the diplomacy which is informing China even in these days. I see before my eyes, if China does not stop this recalcitrant attitude, it may sow the seeds of a third world war. I stop here. I listen to the experts who are here. And if you give me a chance later, I will certainly give my views on what next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bose, for giving your opening remarks. And according to Dr. Bose, the international convention and the law is very clear, even for the environment, that who harms has to pay. And here is a biological war, biological emergency, where the virus which was generated from the China, Wuhan, has harmed everybody. And he is giving the statistics, how so much trillion losses and business losses, even the job losses. And being the one-man expert commission, he has to see in India how those migrants can be resettled, how those workers who have lost their jobs can get their jobs back. Now, all these things were because of one virus, which has generated from China. And he says, although the convention is there, the laws are there, but the China is in habit not to obey anything. But he also mentioned one thing, that because this China's president is weak, and he called him as emperor, because he feels that now the time has come up when the China has to pay. There is no doubt about it. But only thing is, we all means the nations have to come forward. And he has mentioned, although the cases have been filed in the US and other countries, only unless it has not been collectively taken, the China will not pay, which the Chinese are, because China has already mentioned very clearly that they are not going to pay any compensation. Thank you very much, Dr. Bose, for giving your opening remarks of this very interesting and relevant topic. Now, I would like to invite my next guest. He is Professor Dr. Omen Memon. Professor Dr. Memon is MBA, MPhil, PhD. Professor Memon is the former Dean, Nepunya School of Management. He has done his PhD in management from Utrecht University, Amsterdam, Netherlands. He is the visiting professor of Illinois University, USA, and University of Lund, Sweden. He is the resource person of Faculty Development Program, trainer, management consultant. He is having 42 years of experience in corporates and academics, 17 years in academics and 25 years in teaching. His specialized area is spiritual intelligence in management. Welcome, Dr. Oman Mehman, on our show. Dr. Mehman, you have heard what Dr. C.V. Anand Bose has spoken, and he has given in details about the role of China, about the damages occurred worldwide because of the coronavirus generated from Wuhan, China. And he very clearly said that China has to pay when there is a convention even for the environment. Now, we would like to know from you, the COVID-19, will China compensate? Dr. Oman Mehman, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice words. I must say, there is 100 billion subject to be discussed out. And when you, as you said in the opening statement, midnight, early morning, 2:30, you got up and started searching. The same thing happened with me also, because I'm in dark. Even though I'm in dark, I don't know what exactly is happening. What exactly is happening, I don't know. There is so many versions are there. I was keenly listening to Dr. Anand Bose, sir. In fact, he happened to be my neighbor. His Nurmadi Kendra in Kaduakulam, Kottayam, is very near to my house. And I happened to travel with him a couple of times also. Short trips. You may not be remembering that. Anyhow, that's a different issue. So when this is discussed and deliberated, one question comes: is it clearly proved that China has intentionally released this virus? If it is so, who is going to be the police? The question is very relevant. I don't know the international policies and relations. I'm not that aware of those things, but still I do have my own confusions, since the UN is a little weak or inactive. That's what I feel. Personally, it is purely my personal observation. I feel when the UN is a little weak or seems to be a little weak, and today's paper carries a news about a conflict in WHO regarding the coronavirus and how the WHO handled it. There is a small conflict is there that is being highlighted in today's paper. So my first question, is it really man-made? Of course it's a man-made. Of course it's a man-made, but whether it is being intentionally done by China, that has to be looked into. I think if you go a little back towards 1945, between 1945 to 1958, we can see that China faced the largest famine in the world. They introduced, after the declaration of Chinese Republic, the Mao Zedong introduced the rationing system, and the people were not happy, not sufficient enough to, didn't have sufficient enough to eat. So they went for a remedial measure. Whatever moved around them, they started eating or consuming, like all the reptiles, rats, rabbits, insects. All those things have been used, and it has become a food habit of the Chinese people, shortly followed by the people of Korea and Vietnam. We have to understand one thing, that till 1940s, China was one of the largest vegetarian, the Chinese population was one of the largest vegetarian food consumed people, because the Buddhism was prevailing there. So the net result of this consumption of consumption led to wild farming, they say is pangolin, a scaled animal, which created or developed the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. It's been that's the initial form of the coronavirus has been developed. Unfortunately, this development has leaked to the other side of other part of the world. There can be there can be a reason also for that, because the conveyance or the relation between China and other nations all over the world is improved. Most of the countries are investing heavily in China for their because the labor cost is very low there. The international watchtower, the NGO which observe the violation of human rights forum, has declared so many regulations against China, and because of that boycott, especially by Nike products, Adidas, those are the few companies which are the few companies who has got plants in China. They were forced to go back to the HR policies and refrained. Similarly, we can control China with enforcing laws on them, not by extracting a compensation. The compensation automatically comes to you when you refrain China from investing in other nations, or your country investing in China. That can be a solution. And Mr. Goel was talking about extracting compensation and all, and I just thought about Japan. How Japan been compensated after the nuclear bombing? For 6 or 7 generations, they are suffering. Rather than compensating Japan, US was extracting $30 million per annum from Japan, saying that we are the world police and we can protect you from any kind of from any kind of war or any such activities. I don't know. In 1963 only they have withdrawn that $30 million punishment. So the first thing I think we have to do is that refrain ourselves from investing in China, and don't allow Chinese government to invest in other countries or in our country itself. Now we have already entered into certain pacts with the Chinese government as far as the investment is concerned. Yes, we are as Dr. Anand Bose said, unemployment is the biggest problem lurking at us like anything. If the situation is like that, it will be the thing that it is, how far it is going to be effective. America said, America is also facing the largest unemployment situation, which indirectly developed the racism in the country. Look at the certain European countries, there also certain racism has developed because of this unemployment situation. So if China not permitted to invest in your country, in our country, in any other nations of the world, what will be the situation? Any kind of situation, India is capable enough to face it. We do have a very strong foundation for that. That's true. America can also face the situation. Any country can face the situation, but how long can it keep the citizens of those nations unemployed, or support them with welfare activities? I think we are also going to face the same situation in another 1 year time, because our food surplus food food stock is coming down. 99 million tons were there. It is coming down very steadily. It is coming down because for the last 1 year we are supporting the below poverty line and certain classes with the food free rations. To how long we can go with this? The situation is very alarming. And again, the vaccines. None of the vaccines are clinically proven. Just we are so hectic about it. So given permission to use those vaccines. China has become the largest supplier of vaccines in the world. You know, UAE started the vaccination few weeks back. Al Maktoum, the premier of the head of the UAE himself has started the vaccination by taking it by himself. The entire population of UAE will be supported by free vaccinations. Similarly, how many countries are going to depend upon China for vaccines? And for your information, I believe the Chinese pharmacopoeia is not being accepted by European countries or by America. Chinese pharmacopoeia is not being accepted. That is the state of affair right now. But you look at the vaccines, it is being accepted. That says that in a way or other, China is a culprit. China is a culprit, knowingly or unknowingly. Knowingly or unknowingly, they become the culprit. That's a fact. But how are we going to extract the compensation from them? That's a big question. At the end of the day, it seems like that. Thank you. I don't have much to say because if I go deep, I think Dr. Anand Bose is going to throw me a lot of questions. So I'm afraid. I'm concluding. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oman Memon, for giving your views. Although Dr. Memon is he has reserved his comments because he says that although China is a culprit, but how we will get the compensation. And he has given the examples how even the US after the Second World War, after the bombing Japan, extracted the compensation from Japan instead of paying compensation to Japan. Similarly, he says China is, because right now China is the maximum supplier of the vaccine. And he has given the example of UAE. Yes, UAE is using 2 vaccines. One is of Chinese and one is of Pfizer. And the maximum people are going, which is provided free, is Chinese. So according to Dr. Memon, it's not easy, although China is there. And it is very difficult to prove that whether they have done intentionally or not. In which I have to just mention this thing. International law is very clear. If you have acted or omission, both the things are meant to act or omission. When it is very clearly mentioned, even if it is a deliberately or indeliberately, it is the fault of the Chinese first, and they have not informed the WHO as per the convention, as per the rules, within 24 hours. Now they are not allowing Chinese inspectors, WHO inspectors, to visit and inspect all those it is very clear that, but for this we have all the countries have to come together. Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Oman, for giving your views. Now I would like to go to my next guest, and she is Professor Dr. Vidisha Vyas. Professor Dr. Vidisha Vyas is the professor and director PG program IILM University, Gurugram. She is PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, now Mumbai. She holds a master's degree in economics, management, and French. She has 10 years of teaching experience and 4 years of research experience. She has worked as assistant professor at Alliance University, Bangalore too. She has published research papers and case studies in reputed journals. Her research interest is in the area of macroeconomics, industrial organizations, mergers and acquisitions, and international business. Welcome, Professor Dr. Vidisha Vyas on our show. Professor Dr. Vidisha Vyas, you have heard what Dr. C.V. Anand Bose as well as what Professor Dr. Omen Memon has mentioned. You being the professor, and you are a specialist in macroeconomics as well as industrial organizations, merger and acquisitions, as well as in international business. And you know how much harm this virus has done. First harm was about the health. 2.04 million population or the people have died, lost their lives. It's not small. In India, we have lost 1.52 lakhs people. It's not small. Similarly, trillions and trillions of dollars lost, the business lost, the job lost. As Dr. C.V. Anand boasts, so many 40 crores plus have lost their jobs. Now, do you think, or what are your views about the COVID-19? Will China compensate? Professor Dr. Vidisha Vyas, please.
Good morning, everyone. Today, it's my pleasure to be present in the company of august panelists and experts. I would first of all like to thank Mr. Lal Goel for providing me this platform to share my views. I would also like to thank Mr. P. Mohan, President, Indo Gandhi Market Association, for connecting with me to this platform and allowing me to speak on such a contemporary and relevant topic. The question, that COVID-19, will China compensate? This is very relevant and it is haunting every conscious and awakened mind. COVID-19 has been declared a pandemic by WHO after it spreads from Wuhan, China, and reached almost all nations of the world. It has posed serious internal and external challenges to all nations. It was alleged that Beijing allowed it to spread to demonstrate its hegemony all over the world, economically as well as politically, and Wuhan lab is the source of the virus. American and European government accused China of covering up the severity of virus, lack of transparency, and holding back the information about the true source of virus and the potential damage it could cause. There is no doubt, as said by my fellow panelists also, that there is a clear narrative in world nation that China had acted judiciously, it could have stopped this disease to spread so wide and far. And at the same time, if it has acted openly, we could be not facing loss of life as well as monetary loss of $16 trillion, roughly $16 trillion. China have not acted in accordance with International Health Regulation 2005. And as Professor Memon said, Professor Bose said that world want China to bear the legal liability of the same. Many lawsuits have been filed. Dr. Lal Goel has mentioned too about it in US. It has been said by Russell Berman for Berman Law Group in US that China's government is defendant in a class action lawsuit and should pay huge compensation to US and other world nations. British Henry Jackson Society also demanded that China should pay US $6.5 trillion for hiding initial information. In similar lines, Germany sent China euro 149 billion bill for damage caused by Wuhan virus. Australia said in chorus that it is not too much to ask by world from China. But will China pay? No. Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi declared clearly that his country will not pay any compensation for coronavirus pandemic. On what grounds they are saying same? So we had a lot of information from international treaties as well. None of the treaties addressing the international spread of infectious disease, even dating back to 19th century, have any rules requiring payment of compensation for damages in other countries associated with violation of treaty rules. The leading contemporary treaty, the International Health Regulation, IHR, even has no provision on the issues. This situation is not unusual. Most treaties, economic or political, do not address adequately whether the violation of their rules create an obligation to compensate those state parties adversely affected by the harms caused by the violation. Customary international law on state responsibility holds that state violating law has an obligation to make full reparation for the injury caused by internationally wrong act. However, this customary rule has played no discernible role in disease outbreaks over the long history of international health cooperation. Even when states have argued that countries violate applicable treaties. So why will China also be going to pay to the world? States have not seriously pursued compensation against countries accused of breaching treaty obligation to report disease, events, or refrains from imposing travel or trade measures that have no scientific basis. And in Wuhan virus, we have yet not able to establish any scientific measures. The WHO team currently in China has also been quarantined, not being allowed to investigate. Had they been able to investigate, their report could still hold China accountable. So why the state are not being pursuing it legally or making it responsible the other states? Simply because of the political and epidemiological considerations. Just take an example. Pathogenic threats with potential damage for cross-border spread can appear in any country, not only in China. For example, although the origin of the devastating influenza pandemic of 1918-19 remain unclear to us yet, but United States was on the top list of the potential country of origin. Remember H1N1 in 2009. It was first detected in United States. Nobody asked for the compensation. So this reality creates a shared interest among states not to litigate disease notification issues. Likewise, a state experiencing an outbreak will also complain about irrational trade or travel measures imposed by other countries. Possibly, in the subsequent years, there's a chance that same state might want to implement similar measures when another nation suffers an outbreak. So everybody can be in the same shoes. So nobody wants to take initiation to make China lawfully accountable for the same. If we also look into the matter that whether China, can world with so much of emotion against China make it pay? We think that there are measures which can make China pay. What could be those measures? It could be limiting or even eliminating sovereign immunity, which is routinely granted to government, so Chinese immunity could be revoked. We could cancel federal debt purchased by China. Countries can do so very easily. High tariffs on Chinese products could be raised, and the funds raised to these high tariffs could actually be given to the injured or the economies which are severely damaged by the Wuhan virus. Going to International Court of Justice could be an option, but it is very unlikely that any state would do so. Lawsuits filed in the domestic courts doesn't hold China accountable to make any kind of compensation. There's another possibility of establishing a foreign claim tribunal, which could look forward towards seizing China's property to pay claims to the countries which has had severe damage of life, property, and economy. We could also look forward in future if the country forms good groups or they could form their own forums against China and exclude China from buying and selling advanced technologies, denying Chinese students access to foreign universities for better education. All these are actually wonderful hope and impossible dreams. Why I'm saying so? It's very simple. There are throwbacks and blowbacks to it. This may trigger various lawsuits worldwide. Retaliation will be on plates. World has moved investment in China in comparison to Chinese investment in world. So the problem is that people have invested more in China rather than China invested worldwide, so they are more insulated against the world. So making China pay could be lucrative but not a very easy task. Given the Chinese power in domains like economy, politics, and now the rising militia, a possibility of political unrest, geopolitical scenarios could change. There's another possibility of entering into a new Cold War era. However, we look forward towards and contemplate towards possible solution where at least partial compensation Beijing must provide to the world. But to do so, Beijing has to accept that Wuhan virus has been originated in their lab and they should owe the responsibility for the same as Germany has owed for Holocaust, Israel has owed for Arab world, or US has owed against Japan in nuclear bombing. But looking at China's notorious status, they are not going to accept it at all. They are not allowing investigation. It's almost a year. No international team could actually investigate from scratch what is happening in China. We could also understand from various news channels and various reports that people who are investigating, either their voice is suppressed or they are actually being off the radar for quite a long time. So, in my opinion, China must pay, but before that, countries should formulate a proper plan of action. And filing the lawsuit in International Court of Justice, there could be a possibility, but this is a long battle against China. By this, I rest my case here, and I hope I would have made some significant contribution to the esteemed panel where there's such high profile learned people are there. Thank you, Mr. Lal Goel, for allowing me to speak on this forum.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Vyas. And she says that although China should pay, but it's not possible to get anything from China. And she has highlighted many things. She even mentioned that there is no provision in any international law or treaties where this type of disease which were spread or any types of disease spread can come under the purview of the compensation. The reason she says, because it has happened in past, like about the influenza as well as H1N1, and which were originated from US. When they have not paid, then why the China should pay? And she also mentioned that because of the nature of China, as well as the business ties with other countries, maximum monies are invested in China. That's why nobody wants to take that chance. And her views are very clear. Then when they are not allowing even the inspectors or the WHO team to investigate, and then how anyone will come to know, how it will be proved that it was generated from Wuhan laboratory. Until unless it is not proved, China is very clear, and they have mentioned, their foreign minister has mentioned very clearly that we are not going to pay any compensation, as per Professor Dr. Vyas. Thank you very much, Professor Vyas, for giving your views. Now I would like to go for my next panelist. I will just see whether he's there. I think he's not there. Some technical problem. So I will go back to Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Dr. Bose, now you have heard the panelist, and all are saying, yes, China is culprit. China has to pay, but number one, there is no international treaty or international law, or even if it will be proved, although it is not yet proved because they are not allowing the investigation till now, even if it will be proved, then also China is not going to pay. So do you think huge losses caused to the human life and economic losses to be compensated by China? In your assessment, what is the magnitude of losses, particularly on employment? Because as a one-man expert commission, you know that how much problem India faced, forget about other countries, where the migrants problem, which was so much, we all know, because of one virus, that is a coronavirus generated by China. And still, we are helpless. So what you think that how the China will pay and how much magnitude, and what in particularly for the employment? Dr. Vyas, Dr. Bose, please.
First of all, let me compliment the panelists for the very balanced views which they have taken. Dr. Oman pointed out that unless it is established that China is responsible for this, it is unfair to put them in the dock. And Dr. Vyas, how with less of force we can make China come to terms with the rest of the world if possible. Yes, any civilized society should not take a brazen act without establishing who exactly is responsible for the crime if it is a crime. And in India and in the world, we have a lot of instances where even war crimes tribunals, Nuremberg tribunal was there, and even against Saddam Hussein, there was a trial. Naturally, now we have only a near convincing conclusion that China is responsible for it. Near convincing, that's not it. Certainly there should be ways and means of establishing, giving them an opportunity to present their case. And only when it is established unambiguously that China is responsible can any action follow. Having said this, I would also like to qualify my statements by saying that personally, as an individual, I don't think war is a solution to anything. Force is no arbiter. Having said it, how do we tackle this problem if China does not agree? I happen to address or participate in a meeting of senior generals in the wake of the Chinese skirmish on the Indian soil recently. After long deliberations, one of the generals themselves who had took part or had led the war against Pakistan and won, he said, there is a four-pronged approach to China in solving disputes. First, he said there should be a convincing show of force. He said unless the army, the navy, the air force of the world or the participating countries in the world are positioned there, China will not be convinced of an attack, imminent attack. Secondly, he said, economic, that Professor Vyas has also said, try to attack them on the economic front, stopping or boycotting their products or withdrawing investments there. But these are all fraught with other problems which I'll explain later. The third is political, because China is not a monolith now, as it is made out to be. The voices of dissent has already come from China. In fact, professors have taken the lead. Professors, intellectuals, and one of the successful businessmen, he said, the problem with China is not that the emperor is naked. The problem with China is that a naked man poses himself as the emperor. So the voices of dissent have come, and the Chinese youths who are positioned in other countries, they have started taking the contest against Xi Jinping's autocratic government. So political division of China is a possibility. That is what has been done in history. Yes, China is right to be divided into various countries, just as in the case of Soviet Union. When Gorbachev came with Glasnost and Perestroika, what happened? The entire Soviet Union is now the confederation of independent states. Such a possibility is also there in China. And then the last is the diplomatic solution. The general said, unless the other three are there, convincingly, if you demonstrate with them, the whole world is united against you militarily. Then, if they are given, and the threat of political division also looms large, then only China will agree for a diplomatic solution. It's a very uphill task. This was endorsed by many of the generals and ambassadors who are participating in that meeting. The Chinese approach of 2 steps forward and 1 step backward may not be enough in this crisis. But I tell you, in my opinion, the entire world seems to be joining together against Chinese imperialism. Soviet Union, Russia, now Russia, America, and the dreaded enemy of China, Japan. Japan is the most dreaded enemy of China. You go back into history. If they, and Israel is a probable dark horse now, and India. China will be left with only 3 allies. One is North Korea, second is Pakistan, third are the communists of India. If such a situation comes, then only China will agree to see reason. But these and sanctions against a country has only short life. See, you look at the sanctions against Cuba. Cuba survived the sanctions. Now, what happened? A similar situation is here now, as both professors have stated it. Let us not forget the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was a time when the Soviet Union and USA under Kennedy, Khrushchev in Soviet Union, and Kennedy here. The world almost came to a nuclear. When there was demonstrable show of strength on both sides started seeing reason. So I think even the war is not an arbiter. I think China will come down only if they know that there is a superior power against them militarily, politically. Nothing is impossible, though it's an uphill task. And the Chinese attitude, which I said, I repeat it here, that tremble and obey attitude, that has to go. If I may take serious things in a lighter way, in the Chinese jungle, there was a young lion. The young lion thought, when my dad constantly stands in attention, people respect my dad. How come they are not respecting me? So what he did, before the dad got up, the young lion will get up and he will go and ask the first animal who comes. It is a deer. The young lion asked him, who is the king of the forest? Shivering and shaking, the deer said, sir, you are the king of the forest. Then comes, the young lion asked him, who is the king of the forest? The bison looked sharp at him, shook his shoulders, did not give an answer, and left the place. Then comes a rogue elephant. Before him, the young lion asked, who is the king of the forest? The elephant took him in between the trunk and the tusk and threw the young lion away. Dashed against a rock, bruised and limping. The young lion comes back and asks the rogue elephant, Elephant uncle, if you did not know the answer to my question, you could have said that. Why all this? This is a lesson for China. When they know what is in store for them, then only they will come down. China respects only force. Why even the peace-loving president, former president of India, APJ Abdul Kalam said, force respects only force, strength respects only strength. I still underline, I am not for certainly an advocate of war, but unless China feels the fact of war, a more powerful army, with more powerful leaders and more powerful weapons can make a powerful army with powerful leaders and powerful weapons powerless. Led by a lion is more effective than an army of lions led by a sheep. The rest of the world is led by lions. I think unless that is done, China will never stop its brinksmanship. China will never stop its imperialism. I think the world has to stand united. This cannot continue. Biological warfare should not be used to destroy the human race. But I do agree, once again, Mr. Woman, before we conclude this, we should give a fair chance for China to justify its case before the whole world, before the new generation. I think the answer to this question lies not in any of the panelists or the age group which we represent, but in the younger generation, below 18, they will find an answer how to take China. If anybody has got any doubt about it, please ask the youngsters of Egypt. The new generation is watching. They make their own assessment. They make their own decision. Once they make a decision, just one click, anybody will toe the line. So I'm sure that it is not a problem at all. For us, it's a problem. But for the new generation, I'm sure they will find new ways of paying old debts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. Although your net was weak, so there was some voice cracking, but still you have made your point. Now I would like to go to Dr. Oman Memon. Dr. Oman Memon, you have heard Dr. Bose, what he said. And he said that it's not possible to take compensation, and it's not, he says personally he's not agreeing to go for war. But if it is so, then what other course of action? And you are saying that we put some embargo on their business and imports, etc. You know that number one, that at one time Asia's richest man, Jack Ma, is not traceable. Alibaba's owner. So when they can do this with their own businessmen, when what you think for them? And one more thing which I think you know better, even India is depending on lots of imports from China, even today. And as you also mentioned that the vaccines which are going everywhere, mainly from the China. When this is the situation, how you can put embargo on this? Number one. Number two, in the previous compensations, the wars, the loser used to pay the compensation. Here, China has not lost anything. They have rebounded. Their GDP has again come back. The entire world has lost. China is a victorious. By wrong means, that is a separate thing. So how we can ask for a compensation? Do you think there is any other course of action in case China refuses, which they have refused, the compensation? Dr. Oman Memon, please. Please unmute, doctor.
There is so much of questions and a stretch. As Dr. Bose said, war is not at all a solution for anything. And how can we restrict them from doing business with us, with any other nations? That's also going to be a bit difficult. Actually, my personal experience of business experience with China. One of my clients in Saudi wanted to buy around 50,000 dinner sets. He wanted to import it from India. He was my client, I was their consultant. So it's happened a few years back, around 10 years back. So I floated my courier around. I don't want to say the name. Certain potteries of India quoted me 350 rupees per set. That's the minimum price. That was the minimum price. Then again, I floated my inquiry to Chinese market. Chinese market, I received more than a dozen. The lowest I go to is $2.5 per set, per 26-piece set. So I just started asking them, started negotiating with them. $3.50 and $2.5 makes a lot of difference. So I started them. Then they were becoming more clear on their business strategy. They said, sir, if I am giving you at $2.5, you don't have any options. Whatever we give, there will not be any color uniform. There will not be any size uniformity. We will be giving you whatever you have. And no replacement for damages will be there. Fine. What is your next option? Next option, we will charge you $7. We'll give you guaranteed product. 10% of your damage will be replaced. Quality will be assured the best quality you have. Naturally, my client went for the $7 business. So the business strategy they introduce in the market is acceptable for almost everyone in the country. India also likes that. That is why they straight away came. Just look at the automobile, the car they have introduced in the market, MG Hector. The product is not internationally accepted. Morris Garage product introduced by Chinese company into the market. It is accepted by Indian road and Indian people. They have accepted it as a luxurious car. But look at the world scenario, it is not accepted. So unless and until we find a solution for this trading secret, for this kind of tradings or this kind of business, it is not possible to do anything. China will keep on doing business with all over the world. Otherwise, some competitor must be there. But as of now, unfortunately, there is no competitor for China. And China is, a lot of people are investing in China also. A lot of companies all over the world. I said as even Nestle has got their products, their plant, Nike, Adidas, and so many mobile companies, so many companies they have invested. International Innovation, Nokia, the Finland company, they also have a plant in China. So for low cost labor, all over the world, the entire world is depending China. Then how can we think about controlling China economically, or in a successful manner? It's not. I don't think it is. It is not possible to a certain extent, but it is possible unless and until, as Dr. Bose said, if the younger generation says we don't want the Chinese product, we can. But the temptation is so much. The temptation is so much that they could get one of the best products with the latest technology. It comes to the market. And this is one thing, again, I am coming back to the Chinese vaccine. I said till 20th century, Chinese pharmacopoeia has not been accepted by any countries in the world, especially British pharmacopoeia, US pharmacopoeia, Russian pharmacopoeia, and Indian pharmacopoeia never accepted the pharmacopoeia of the Chinese pharmacopoeia. But what happened now? So it is a bit difficult to control them. Maybe prove them, and if you all stand together, can bring them down, split them. That is what the Britishers did to us. Split them into various smaller and small countries like that, smaller and small provinces. Then something can happen. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. China will control the entire economy of the world, going to control the entire economy of the world. In the last discussion, I said, I think when we have minus 10% growth in GDP growth, internationally GDP growth, we have, 30% growth, international GDP growth is shown. China has registered 10% positive growth. How come it happens? 10% positive growth when the entire world has registered minus 30% growth in the GDP. How can it happen? That means the China, even though Dr. Bose said the premier is a little weak, so we can do something. The premier is big, but the entire business class is so strong. The industry there is so strong. The party there is so strong. So where is the solution? The solution, this is the only solution. This is the only solution. Control their economic growth. Control the economic growth by arresting their, boycotting their products, or it happened. Again, I say it happened in 1980s. International Watchtower, an NGO for keeping international human right, boycotted certain products. Adidas is one of those companies, such companies. Nike is one of such companies. They corrected, the Chinese company is corrected by themselves. So if such organizations are there, we can do something. Otherwise, no. Because the countries is not going, those countries are not going to stand together. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Omen. And now, according to you, we can't do anything except restricting. But we have forgotten our own history. We have thrown away the Britishers by boycotting their products. Here, we cannot boycott because our policies are such. Number one, why the people wants to invest in China, as you have mentioned that everybody wants to go to China, because there is a one window clearance for establishing any business. 24 hours, you will get everything. In India, if we will start, I am sure no Indian businessman or any other country's businessman would like to go to China, given the choice, because of the dictatorship as well as our country's democracy. Number two, if you say that in pharmacy, 70% of the tuberculosis medicine called rifampicin, the raw material is coming from China. We are not manufacturing the raw materials of our own medicines, the medicines which are required for the tuberculosis patients. So when we are depending totally on China for the raw materials, how we can stop getting those things? And one more thing I would like to inform, that today the condition is where there are restrictions of many things in the direct China import, they have adopted a indirect export, which is coming through the third country to our country, until unless government become very strict. And as you rightly said, Dr. Omen, if the people of country take a pledge that they will not buy anything from China, but it's not possible. As you have also mentioned, that the price difference is so much. Who is going to pay for a higher price for the same quality, even if the quality is a bit inferior? For another thing, you know that today, even if we talk about mobile, if we talk any electronic items, as you have mentioned about the automobile also, why people will pay more? And this has to be seen by our country, the government, and they must rationalize the taxes in such a way. They must remove the red tapes from all sectors. Then only we can boycott, if we have to set right the China. And as far as to break the China in different provinces or different nations, I don't think you rightly said it's possible right now, because they have done a very long planning. You see the roads connection which we have generated, the all highways which they have made through many of the European countries, as well as the Pakistan and the nearby. All neighbor countries are favoring China. That's a very long-term policy China has adopted, where we have lagged up. But we can do it if we all take a strong decision, until unless otherwise. Today, this has come when Corona has came, and it has ruined, or it has finished almost all the activities temporarily. Tomorrow, they may come out with some very strong virus again, or some other thing which will try to finish us altogether. So we all have to be very, very seriously thinking. Earlier, the countries used to invest in war weapons, missiles, and now these things are all outdated. Instead of spending lots of money on Rafales or all those things, we must go for research work, which is the basic thing. After all, somebody has created a virus. This is because of the research. It is nothing to do with a high investment of a aeroplane or a fighter plane or a tank or missiles. No. So the research is weakening in our country. which is required, and then only we will be able to fight against that China. Anyway, these are the views.
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
please.
can I just make a
Yes, please.
an interruption? The interruption is nothing but is of the rifampicin.
Yeah.
The rifampicin is as per British pharmacopoeia. It is not a Chinese pharmacopoeia. Some of
But
the
raw material,
raw materials as per British pharmacopoeia manufactured in China. That
So
is the point.
and that
Another
is
thing,
and that is coming to India.
that's coming to India. Of course, the product rifampicin is getting out of the market. Outdated. The latest drug is ethambutol.
No, Dr. Omen Memen, I will not agree with you. Rifampicin is there, ethambutol is there,
It is there.
Isonex is there. All these products are already existing. This
It is
combination
there.
is required for tuberculosis. But what I am saying is these medicines are coming from China, and India is depending on China for these medicines. We are not importing from Britain. That is my point.
Fine.
Okay.
I would just simply say that this particular situation have actually impacted China negatively for sure. So they are being left into isolation. A lot of trust has been removed from them. The trust that China needed decades of gradual progress to build within the international community. And it has rose to this economic power, no thanks only to China international community, which has kept trust into it. With such kind of leading so-called biological weapon to the world, China have actually lost the chance of someday leading the world narrative. So the China grew regarding the coronavirus pandemic, and these accusations have actually led or paused at least the growth which China was enjoying all these years.
Dr. Vyas, I agree with you up to an extent, but what happened to the nuclear atom bomb which was dropped by USA at that time? The same narrative was that what US has done is a very wrong thing and it is going to pause everything of US. But what happened? Everybody has forgotten. Similarly, China, yes, you can say, but how? Today, yesterday, there is a report that their GDP is again in a positive 2.3 or so. And India and all other countries are down. So it is a very short-lived. The money plays a very important role. We all are depending on those things, and whatsoever anybody says, the economic and the financial matters. And Chinese people know one thing, the Chinese government knows one thing, the weakness of the world is the financial economy thing.
Yes.
And that's why they are winning. They are not winning only with the biological war, but the economic war also. And that's why if you see the condition of the debt in USA, that China has lended money like anything in USA, and the USA has to pay the money to China. So whatsoever Mr. Trump has done, he has not done anything concrete. Otherwise, they would have taken a strong step. What they have done, taken steps against many countries because they were weak countries. China is such a strong country to take any action against China. Even the US has to think twice or thrice. Now, my question to you is, what geopolitical, because you said the geopolitical changes will be there, what geopolitical changes do you anticipate in the days after COVID?
So we could see that after COVID, looking at the narrative against China, we have seen in past couple of months that Australia, Japan, India, and many of the South China Sea country and Indo-Pacific countries are also joining their hands. They are trying to demonstrate a lot of power against China, not only in terms of economy, by what they have done in past. They have Japan have explicitly allocated 2.2 billion to help Japanese companies move out of the supply chain, their supply chain out of China. Similarly, Australia and European Commission have actually prevented Chinese companies from buying their asset cheaply. So all these things, they are putting a pressure on China economically. They are doing a lot of joint exercises militarily also to showcase to China that yes, we are against what you are showing to the world. We are not scared of your hegemony which you are doing. And China's nexus with the so-called nexus with North Korea and Russia is also being seen very strongly by West as well as Asian powers.
Okay.
They are very well aware of the scenario that what China is actually collaborating with Russia and North Korea, and how all these countries can be on one part and can become one big bloc against China. So in couple of last years, we have seen a multipolar kind of world. But looking this pandemic, we could again move back to a bipolar world where North Korea, China, Russia on one side, and Asian giants, India, Japan, Australia, Western Europe, and America being on other part of it. If they really want to stop China from playing any significant or notorious role in future. This is
Okay,
what
thank you very much. So today you have seen that all our panelists agreed that this China is the culprit, but they all have mentioned one thing very clearly, that because of the lack of international treaties or the laws or the unwillingness of China, it is very difficult to get compensation from China. And I think the geopolitical situation depends from tomorrow onwards, or rather from Indian time today, but from US time tomorrow, when the new US president is going to be inaugurated. Then only we will know what new US policies will come as far as the China is concerned. And then only the new geopolitical changes, what Dr. Vyas has mentioned, can take place. But yes, one thing is very clear. If we want, the India wants to give a reply, a rebuff to the China, we have to, the government has to give the level field playing with China by giving relaxation to the industries, one window clearance. In fact, not on the papers, giving the ease of the business, giving the priorities, check up what are the things required. Then only we will be able to fight economically. Otherwise, as Dr. Memon has mentioned, it's not possible because of their cheap things available, produce available in the market. Thank you very much for joining. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, as well as was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you every day new topic. And tomorrow our topic is far like we have discussed today. Tomorrow topic is very important. That is media conference with Lal Goel, best vaccine for COVID. Today, it is very, very disturbing news which has come today only in the early morning, that one of the companies says that those who are having diseases like diabetes or heart conditions or the cancers, and they are aged people, they should not go for vaccine. Although till yesterday, all the governments and the WHO was insisting that all the senior citizens and even those who are having comorbids, they must go for the vaccine. So there is a very, very, very fluid situation, what is going to happen. So we are going to discuss tomorrow, and our panelists are Dr. Om Srivastav, Director, Infectious Disease, Jaslok Hospital, Mumbai, as well as the member, COVID Task Force, Government of Maharashtra. We have Dr. Brahm Prakash, former Medical Superintendent, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Rishikesh, Professor Amita Jain, MD, PhD, FRC, PET, FAMS, Professor and Head, Department of Microbiology, KG Medical University, Lucknow, as well as Dr. Kapil Rathi, Medical Director and Consultant, My Health Clinics, Mumbai. Please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Thank you very much, Dr. Omen Memon, and thank you very much, Dr. Vidisha Vyas, for joining and enlightening our